good evening, Facebook, YouTube, everyone. Good to see you all. Sorry we're a minute or so late. We were just pulling things together at the last minute, as usual. So jump in and let us know who's here, where you're watching from, and we'll give everybody a chance to jump in, because I know that it takes a little bit of time to come up live and everything for everybody. So where are you jumping in from? And is this your first evening with us, or have you been with us for the whole of the masterclass? Hi, Catherine. Hey, Joanna. Good to see you. Okay, hi, Casper, Callie, Tig, and Dizzy. I think those are probably your dogs' names, are they? Henrik, good to see you. Yeah, okay. And see, good to see you all back again. That's lovely. We've got people jumping in, so we're just going to give everybody a minute or two to get in. Hi, Aisha, Angela, good to see you. Di, Wendy, good to see you. Sky, we're missing. Okay, good to see everybody. And again, people jumping in from all over the UK, people jumping in from the US. People jumping in from all over the place, and we have I think from other, we've got Sweden, we've had other places as well over the course of the last 3 days. So we have had a great time. At least I have had a great time. I hope you guys have had a great time too, because I've been having a ball, and I really love doing this sort of stuff, and I really love seeing everybody jump in and really get into what we're talking about. So for those who may, I think everybody who's jumping in has actually been here for a few days. But anybody who hasn't been here, for whom this is your first, just to let you know that the other two recordings for the first two parts of this masterclass, oh, give me a second. I'm just going to close my notifications, because otherwise we're going to have dings going on all the way through. Normally I do that beforehand, but I forgot. Anyway, there we go. So just close those down. So if you look in the Facebook group and you're in the lead, which is maybe where you're watching, if it's not where you're watching and you're watching from YouTube, then they'll be on YouTube. If you're watching from the Canine Confidence Hub, then they will also be in that group. So the recordings will be in whichever group you're watching. And in your end of the lead, they will be put up in the featured section, because the featured section is easier to generally find things. Otherwise, they get pushed down the thread and you lose them. I've had a number of questions about the recordings. How long will they be there? This sort of thing. They will be there for the foreseeable future, for certainly the next couple of weeks. What I'm planning to do is create a little mini course based on what we've been talking about. So, oh, Catherine. Hello, Catherine. Were you meaning to be on?
I'm having tech issues already. Do you know what I mean?
Having tech issues.
Sorry.
What a surprise. But at least you're here.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you whiz me away again now?
You want to be whizzed away? Okay, there we go. So we're going to create a little mini course, which those of you who've registered will get automatically put into that course, so that you'll then be able to come and watch it whenever you want, and you'll have the resources and the workbooks in there and everything. If you haven't yet registered, the link to register, I think if somebody could pop that up, it is there somewhere, I think, in our banners. If somebody could find that and pop that up, then that would be great. The link to register. It's still not too late to register. If you want to register, you will then get put onto that mini course when it comes, because they will, the recordings, I don't plan to delete them necessarily, but they are going to disappear. They'll be taken off featured after a couple of weeks, and then they'll be disappearing down the thread, and you'll never see them again in Facebook. So always worth making sure that you've got them through being registered. Okay, so you should have had, those of you registered should have had the workbook for today. If you haven't had the workbook for today and you'd like it, just register and you will get it, because then we'll make sure that we can send all 3 workbooks out in an email after this, plus links to the recordings, so that everybody's got those going forward. Thank you, Penny. Thank you. Penny, we've got Penny and Sam, who are part of our coaching team. Penny and Sam are in Facebook with you, and we'll be sharing links and things as we go through. Okay, so what we want to do today is, so if we think about what we've talked about up to now, we've talked about vision on the first day. So we were talking about your vision for your dog and your vision for your life with your dog, and what that might look like, how that might change as you go through, and you might start off with one particular vision, and then as you are living with your dog and you get to know your dog and what your dog's needs are, what they're able to cope with, then you actually may get to the point where you say, well, my vision is different. And it doesn't mean it's worse or better. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just means it's different. And so we were looking at that and looking at how we can put together a vision that is exciting for us, but still in keeping with what is good for our dogs. So that was on day one. We talked about vision, and hopefully some of them, I mean, we've had some great posts and things in the group, the things that people are doing, looking at vision. So doing vision boards, doing mind maps, all these sorts of things. So really lovely. So if you haven't done that yet, it's not too late. Go ahead and put together a vision in whatever way works for you. And if you're not sure what that vision will look like, then just start it. So the workbook will help you with that. Just start it and then see where it takes you. And then yesterday we were talking about self-care, and self-care is one of those things that people kind of go, no, not for me. Too much, too busy, too many things to do. Can't do that self-care business. Too selfish. Not, I need to be looking after everybody else. And what we learned yesterday was that if we don't look after ourselves, we're not going to be able to look after anybody else. So looking after ourselves is one of the critical factors of being able to support and look after our dog. So if we want to help our dog, if we want to help our family, if we want to help our dog be able to cope with what they're going through, then we have to start by looking after ourselves. We have to start by actually taking care of ourselves, looking at how we are treating ourselves, whether that's, are we being compassionate to ourselves? Are we being loving to ourselves? And one of the things I said was, think about how you treat your dog and then treat yourself as well as you treat your dog. So most of the people on a call like this are completely besotted with their dogs, adore their dogs, would do anything for their dogs. Who falls into that? Who falls into that? Who is completely and utterly besotted with their dog? That's fantastic, Sky. Prioritize self-care this morning. Feel much fresher than I have in the past week or so. That's the great thing about self-care. Self-care, even if you just do a little bit, when you do that little bit of prioritization of yourself, everything else fits in. So we got all the people. Yeah, adore Maruby most of the time. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Sometimes they drive you insane, but most of the time you're adoring them. And yeah, we go do anything for our dogs. So they get the best nutrition, they get the exercise, they get the love, they get the enrichment, they get everything that we can possibly pour out for them. And then we get the end, we get the short straw, we get what's left, which usually isn't very much, and we don't have time for ourselves. And really what we discovered was that not having time is really just about not prioritizing. So we all have the same amount of time. We choose what we prioritize. And if we don't have time for self-care, then we're not prioritizing ourselves. And when we don't prioritize ourselves, we risk burnout. We're unable to be physically, mentally, emotionally, socially healthy, and therefore we're not as well positioned to support our dog. So if you really want to support your dog, look after yourself first. That was the message of yesterday, and I gave you a few different easy ways to do that. Power-ups, we looked at the languages of self-love, we looked at to-be lists, and just to get you thinking about things that you could do. So that was what we're talking about the last 2 days. What we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about mindset and thinking patterns. So we're going to be looking, we've already mentioned some of these as we've gone through for the last couple of days, and we're going to be talking about this in a little bit more detail. That there are things that we there are patterns that we have in our thinking which basically keeps us stationary, keeps us stuck. And what we're going to look at is why, where they come from, what we can do about them, and how we can move forward with taking things differently, doing things differently, with a different mindset, and then practically what we can do to move forward to support our dog in that way. Okay, so can we have the slides up, Catherine? Okay, well, okay, so what we're talking about today, we get to choose, and the key thing about thinking patterns is that we have choice. So we may actually feel that we have no choice about how we feel about things. We have no choice about how we react to things. We have no choice about what our response is to situations. And that just isn't true. We have choice, and we're going to talk about how we get how we make those choices, how we can give ourselves that choice, because sometimes it feels like we don't have choice, doesn't it? It feels like we're just driven by these thinking patterns, driven by our emotional responses to things, and we feel like we can't get out of that, and it's just a natural way that we're responding to things. But actually we do have choice, and we're going to talk about how we can make those choices. So Kathleen says, oh my God, that's so me. I just realized I'm just like my out of control reactivity dog. Absolutely. We all are. Yes, we are just like our dogs in that we will be reactive to things. And the difference is that we can actually think ourselves around what is happening to us. So we have the capacity to do that. Our dogs are liable to be responding emotionally, but we can actually teach them ways to think their way around things as well, to do the same sorts of things that we're going to be doing here for them. Okay, so let me just see where we are. So could we move on to the next slide? Yeah. Okay, so patterns of thinking. So patterns of thinking are the default ways that we have of thinking that hold us back. And they're sometimes called limiting beliefs. They might be called faulty patterns of thinking. But that always makes me feel that people are being blamed for them. You know, you're a bit faulty there. That's not the thing. But these are just the ways of thinking that we have developed as we have grown up to make sense of the world. That's effectively what they are. But they end up holding us back. So they end up stopping us doing stuff. So move on to the next one. We'll get there. Nope, we're going backwards. There we go. And the sorts of things, they tend to fall into categories. They fall into the I'm not good enough language. So I'm no good. I can't do it. I'm useless. I'm always wrong. Nothing works for me. I'm not lovable. There's a whole set of these. This is just 4 examples, but you know the sorts of things because we all have these patterns. So they might be patterns that we've talked about, like we talked about yesterday, I think, I am my results. That might be a pattern. That's a pattern I had for a long time. So that is, I am only worthy if I'm successful. That's I am my results. So if I'm successful, I am worthy. I'm worthy of love. I am worthy of acceptance. If I fail at something, I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. That's one thinking pattern. Another one, I have to be perfect. Who's that perfectionist here? Who's a perfectionist? Shout up if you're a perfectionist or a recovering perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist. So anybody feel that sense of, I've got to get it right? Yep, we've got a lot of perfectionists. These tend to be things. Yeah, definitely me. Yeah. The things where I've got to get it right. If I don't get things right, then I feel unsafe. So it could be feeling unsafe. It could be feeling that you'll be rejected. It could be feeling that you're going to be judged, you're going to be laughed at. There's all sorts of reasons behind it, but the basic pattern is I have to be perfect. Now, interesting that, yes, Kathleen, for my dog, I do have to get it right. There is a difference between perfection and making the right choices, making good choices. Okay, so perfection is, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be, we've got to get it completely right. And what tends to happen with that is we're judging ourselves. We're judging ourselves based on what other people might think. And when you're dealing with your dog, what you've got to get is you've got to be good enough. You've got to manage it well enough to support your dog. That's it. You don't have to be perfect. In fact, none of us can be perfect. So that's great. So that's really good. So not anymore. So C says, not anymore. Let go of a lot of this after mum's death and hitting my 40s, thank goodness. But I do feel I have to be the best dog guardian. Yeah. So sometimes we feel perfectionism around our dogs. We feel that we've got to be good enough. And how many of us who are dog professionals feel that? This is the first few, I'm just starting having Martha in the room with me because I have always kept my dogs somewhere else. And now I'm actually living in a place where I can't keep my dogs somewhere else. I can't keep both of them somewhere else. So when I'm doing lives and things like that, they're with me. And the risk of that is that they're going to start kicking off. They're going to start not being perfect. They're going to start, maybe showing me up. Maybe my response is going to be judged. So that becomes something where we all have these things, these kind of worries about what are people going to think, and at the end of the day, this is life. This is, none of us are going to get things right all the time. None of us are going to be perfect. What we aim to do is do the best that we can with the knowledge that we have at that moment and continue learning and continue practicing and making sure that we're doing what we can to support our dogs. So, yeah, a lot of us will feel that. It can be tiring and emotionally draining. Yes, it can. And if I know I can't be perfect, perhaps I won't bother. Yeah, and that's something. So sometimes we don't try if we're not certain we can succeed. And that was another pattern that I had. So I grew up with a pattern, very strong patterns around perfectionism, around acceptance was particularly being accepted for achieving things, for succeeding. And for a long time, I didn't actually try anything that I didn't know I could succeed at. So I did a lot of stuff with academic stuff because I knew I was good at it. So I concentrated on those. I never tried sport because I didn't think I'd be able to do that. And I just told myself I wasn't sporty, but I didn't try because it wasn't something that I was sure I could succeed at. And I think I've mentioned this earlier, when I was 16, I failed my O-level art. And I had loved art. I mean, when I was in primary school, I had a gallery around the classroom with all these charcoal pictures of animals that I'd done. I loved art. I really enjoyed it. But then I failed my O-level art, and this shows my age, how old the people who know what an O-level is in the UK, they don't have them anymore. But this is like 16, level 6, at age 16 exams. And I failed my art, and I didn't do any more drawing, painting, anything for the best part of 35 years. I didn't try because I just thought, I can't do it. I'm a failure. No point. And it was only when I started doing more work on myself and my limiting beliefs and things like that, I thought, oh, hell, just let's try it. Let's just have fun. And now I just do what I want to try. And if I'm not good at it, then it doesn't matter, does it? Is success always in achieving a certain result, or is success in doing something, success in putting yourself out there, success in enjoying something for its own sake, painting, drawing? that can just be fun to do. Whether or not you produce something anybody else would want to display on the wall doesn't matter if you're having fun. So that's a success factor as well. But we tend to have this kind of like, there's a measure out there that we have to succeed by. So yeah, nobody puts more pressure. I've realized with age it's not possible. Yeah, I've seen no one puts more pressure on me than I put on myself. Yeah. And I think that's something that we get to remember, that pressure is actually usually something that comes from us. And it comes from the patterns that we have got in our thinking. So we put pressure on ourselves because we believe we have to be this certain sort of person that we have told ourselves we've grown up with thinking that's what we have to be. And we end up pressuring ourselves and telling ourselves other people are pressuring us, when in fact, a lot of the time people are not. A lot of the time people are not. So a lot of things that you think people have expectations of you, they don't. This is one of the things that we often get when we're going out with our dogs. We go out and we think everybody's looking at us and everybody's judging how well we're handling our dog and this sort of thing. Most people really don't care. Most people really aren't paying attention. And even if they are, if they really are getting that het up about somebody else's dog and whether they're handling their dog correctly, then, they're probably got other things going on in their life themselves. So I can now see how these thoughts suck energy. Yeah, absolutely. Leaving us unable to act. The problem when you don't put your own oxygen mask on first. Yes. So this is part of self-care. It's part of self-love and it's part of self-compassion. So it's about bringing things, bringing your own self out, allowing your own self to be free of the constraints of some of these thinking patterns that we have had since we were little. So let's just bring this back in. So we go on to the next one, please. So ways that we can tell that we're talking about, that we're getting these negative thinking patterns, these limiting thinking patterns, limiting beliefs. They tend to use words like I can't, I never, I always. So things that are very much definitive words. They're things that, absolute words. Or they're self-beat up words. I'm pathetic, I'm unlovable, I'm useless, I'm hopeless, all those sorts of things. So that's how we can recognize that we've probably got a limiting belief going on. If we find ourselves saying those things to ourselves, oh, I can never do that. Oh, I always get that wrong. I'm rubbish at this. Those things are not true. And we'll come back to that in a minute. But these are the sorts of words that you're likely to see. And it's summed up in a kind of, I'm not enough. That's what it's summed up as. Most of these things come down to, I'm not enough. I'm not enough to be successful. I'm not enough to be valued. I'm not enough to be worthy. I'm not enough to be loved. All of those are just about us feeling that we have not measured up somehow. And these things start in childhood. Could we just move on? So we start in childhood. They start with our parents. They start with our teachers. They start with our peers sometimes. They start with the messages that we get that we have to measure up. Now, sometimes people sort of, when you say this, they think, oh, we're blaming our parents. And it's not that, because, well, there's two reasons why it's not that. One is that even if our parents are really messed up, they are the product of their own limited thinking patterns as well. So they have had this happen to them. Their parents had it happen to them. Their parents had it happen to them. It's just an ongoing cycle. And we get to actually break that cycle. So that's the first thing. Nobody is to blame. The second thing is that sometimes these come because of people being well-meaning. This is not always because people are putting us down. Sometimes it's because people want us to actually do well. And so they put these pressures on us to say, yeah, you've got to do well. And sometimes it's because they've got the misjudged ideas about praising people, meaning that they're going to become, arrogant and obnoxious and all this sort of thing. And that's because they've been taught that as well. So we often get this cycle, don't we, where people, I think people mentioned it yesterday, where, when you achieve something, it's never enough. You don't get praised for it. So when you were little and you took things home, it was never enough. And that was certainly a pattern that I had played out a lot, that you were always running to do better because what you did was never quite enough. And again, not to blame anybody, it's just that is where these things come from. They come from experiences that we've had, they come from words that people have said to us. And sometimes, again, those words are accidental almost. If you tell a child who's climbing up a tree, stop, you're going to hurt yourself. If that happens often enough, you can create a child who is frightened to try. Yeah. Constant competition with my brothers growing up, Sky says. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So things that we have experienced in life, words that have been said to us, things we've witnessed. Thank you, Martha. It's okay, darling. Just a second. Okay, back again. So things that we've witnessed. So I grew up witnessing somebody that I loved and adored, looked up to, being put down a lot. Somebody who was deeply emotional, deeply connected, being made to seem small. And so my experience of being emotional was that was going to get you into trouble, that was going to be judged, that was going to be weak, considered to be weak. And so one of my thinking patterns is you have to be strong. You have to stay strong. And another was have to protect people that I love. That was the thing that was driving me, was protecting people that I love. And again, just unpicking all of these things, you will find that there are many, many patterns that are playing out for you. And it's a continuous cycle of just looking at what is coming up and seeing how we shift through them. So yeah. So father was overprotective. I was scared to try new experiences. Yeah, absolutely. Sky says, yeah, the same. So that was seeing people, I think, seeing people that you care about being belittled for being emotional. Is this basically a religious matter from the very beginning? No, not necessarily. I mean, it can be. It can come from people who have various faith beliefs. Yes, absolutely, it can be. But it doesn't have to be. People can have all sorts of views based on how they were brought up and how their parents parented them. And teachers can do it. When I first got to secondary school, the first thing people said was, oh, you're so-and-so sister, you're going to be good at this. Immediate pressure to perform, immediate pressure to be successful. And comparison, somebody else mentioned comparison with siblings and so on. So yeah. So we're repeating these patterns in our life. So I had that dad also, but I was a bit defiant, so tried some things anyway, but not enough. It's something I look back sadly on. Yeah, and it's not too late. It's never too late. It's never too late to do stuff. Keeping on, just shifting through. And the first step in this is recognizing that we've got those patterns going on. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But when we have patterns like this, sometimes our, yes, Henrik, yes, the patterns come from our sociology, not from our nature. So yeah, we're not born with these patterns. These are patterns that come as we grow up. So these are really important. That's lovely. don't know who Facebook user is, but bless you. And I'm glad. I'm glad. And I have learned a lot in the last year and 2 years or so of doing some serious work on this. And I think this is what we get to do, is to actually be looking at ourselves. That's part of our self-care. So when we have a dog who can be reactive, sometimes that is a trigger for us for some of these thinking patterns, isn't it? So we can find ourselves feeling hopeless, feeling useless. I can't fix it. I can't fix my dog's behavior. I can't help them. Therefore, I'm a failure. I'm isolated. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy because I am my results. And therefore, if I can't fix my dog, I'm no longer worthy. So it's triggering a pattern that we have lived with for a long time. I'm to blame. Does anybody have the blame pattern? I certainly had this as well. So, I mean, it sounds like I've got a huge number of patterns, but I think we all do. We all have lots of patterns, and they just keep sort of tumbling out as you start examining this. And now it doesn't worry me so much when I say, I think, oh, that's kind of interesting that that's now come up. But yeah, the blame. My pattern growing up was, if I said something, I think I've shared this recently. If I said something at the wrong moment and interrupted somebody, then I would be to blame for what the consequences of that, which might be they lost their train of thought, or they got something wrong, they made a mistake, whatever it was. But I was to blame for that. And so I took on that if I speak out of turn, I can end up being responsible for people getting things wrong. And that made it really difficult for me for a long time to actually speak at all, to actually be willing to stand up and say stuff, to be willing to share stuff like this. I wouldn't have done this a year ago, 2 years ago. I just wouldn't have done it. And that's partly because I was always had that worry of what was going to happen. As a result of what I did. So blaming myself. So if you feel you're to blame for everything that goes wrong around you, then when your dog can't cope with life, or can't cope with the life they're in, or can't cope with everything about the life they're in, then we feel shame, we feel isolation, we feel that we are, again, not worthy. And so all of these, yeah, I should have done stuff. There is a lot of stuff around should. I should have done things. I should be able to do this. I'm a dog trainer. I should be able to stop my dog doing that. I'm a, if I had a good relationship with my dog, I should be able to do this. There's a whole set of shoulds around that. And again, if you hear, that's another word that is an indicator of a limiting pattern, a limiting belief, is should. If you hear yourself saying, I should do something, chances are that's coming from outside of you. It's not something that you are putting out there. It's something somebody else has put on you. And then you can shift that. And it might be that the should is something you want, in which case, but it's far better if you reframe it and say, rather than I should do this, say, I would like to be able to do this sometime. So that then it becomes something you own, you take on. So Sarah says, I did something quite profound a few years ago and wrote a letter to myself. This highlighted achievements I'd forgotten about, what I liked about myself. It really helped me to feel strong about who I am. That is lovely. That is lovely. So yeah, absolutely. And dog log. Hi, Nathan. Nathan's a friend of mine from up north. Boo to shoulds. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Jan, yeah, I've come a long way in terms of my presentation style since last summer. You seem so much more relaxed and comfortable when you're speaking now. Absolutely. And now, what is happening when I'm speaking now, when I'm talking these things? I mean, yeah, I can have preparation, I have notes, I have this sort of thing. But essentially, I'm just speaking from me. It's speaking from my heart. It sounds kind of, sounds a bit wussy, doesn't it? It sounds a bit kind of out there. But it is just about connecting to the message that you want and putting that out there. And rather than focusing on what are people going to think, how are people going to judge me, is it going to be right? Well, it's going to be right because it's what I want to say. How it's received is up to other people, but it's going to be right in terms of what I want to say. And it's trusting yourself. So learning to talk about your feelings, that it's okay. I come from a family where emotions weren't talked about. My dad was trying to protect us. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff around emotion and whether emotion is okay, whether we are allowed to show emotions. And again, showing emotions has this kind of judgment about it, doesn't it? Emotions, people are uncomfortable with it. People are uncomfortable when you cry. People are uncomfortable when you're angry. People are uncomfortable. They feel that you somehow have to be unemotional. And you often get responses, and those responses are coming from people's thinking patterns, people's limiting thinking patterns. So emotion, I learned this quite a long time ago. This is something which I learned way back when I first started having coaching, which was back about 10 years ago. Emotion is just an indicator that something matters. So that has been my that was a realization I had some time ago, because when I first did coaching, when I first was coached, I couldn't have a conversation with my coach without bursting into tears. So every time I started talking about something, I would just end up crying. And I just got so frustrated with this because I kind of got, this is just crazy. I've got to be able to actually hold a conversation. And every now and then I go through this thing where that is happening again because something else is coming up. And the thing that I learned back then was to see emotions coming up as an indicator that something matters. An indicator that something matters. That's all it is. So when you feel the emotion coming up, you don't have to apologize. I've apologized for being emotional all my life. I'm going to stop, because you don't have to apologize for it. You just have to listen to it. You just have to hear it, something, whatever it was that triggered that feeling matters to you. It's important to you. It might be important to you because it's something there that needs to come out. It might be important to you because you're angry about something. It might be important to you because you love something, but it's important to you. So when you feel anything like that, even if it's just a catch of emotion that you don't express because you've learned not to express it, or you're more comfortable not expressing it, or whatever, but when you feel it, listen to it, because that is your inner self telling you what matters. It's really important. Okay, so it's helpful for me to see that my authentic self is okay. Absolutely. Yeah, very difficult to talk about feelings. I feel people don't listen nowadays, too wrapped up in themselves. Yeah, and I mean, it may be that they are uncomfortable with it because they find it difficult as well, because they have had lessons in the past that talking about emotions gets you into trouble. Talking about emotions is uncomfortable. Dealing with other people's emotions is uncomfortable. Holding space for other people's emotions is uncomfortable. So all of those things can be difficult. It's easy to forget our wins. Yeah, we're going to talk about wins a bit later on. It absolutely is easy to forget our wins when we don't feel they're worthy, as we feel we should be better. So yeah, we have something which is called the negativity bias. So there is a thing called the negativity bias, which is designed to keep us safe. It's one of these things that is designed to keep us safe. And it's basically that we will notice things that are bad that might happen. We will not notice things that are good, because things that are bad can kill us. So our brain, as we said, I think maybe on, I don't know, did we say that? I can't remember where I said it, but anyway, our brain is designed to keep us safe. That's what its job is to keep us safe. And when something bad happens, our brain is going to notice that because it could hurt us. So that's what our brain is tuned into noticing. When something good happens, that's not going to hurt us. So our brain doesn't need to pay much attention to that. So there's actually research that shows that you've got to spend at least 12 seconds dwelling on something good for you to remember it, whereas you will immediately remember the bad stuff. So make sure, if you want to remember wins, that you actually really focus on them and spend time savoring them and talking about them and sharing them, because those things are not going to naturally stay in your brain, not going to naturally stay in your memory. Okay, so it's really important that you do that. And we're going to talk about ways that you can do that a little bit later on. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit more about what's wrong with these patterns. We've touched on some of this. So what's wrong with these patterns? Well, the first thing that's wrong with these patterns, we can move on. I've got slides for each of these. So the first thing is they're not true. So limiting beliefs are not facts. We tend to think that they're facts, but they're not. So you've seen Sandra's comment. Thank you, Sandra. That's lovely as well. Listening to you is like receiving a huge supportive hug. Give you a hug. I would give you a hug if you were here. Yeah, so a limiting belief, these faulty thinking patterns, these limiting thinking patterns, they are not facts. They are just what we have created, what we have constructed to make sense of the world that we were living in when we were little. And what we've got to remember about them is that we actually constructed these when we were little. So these are not mature thinking, logical thoughts. These are, well, the only way I can make sense of this is this. It must be me. It must be my fault. It must be I'm not good enough. It must be that I have to do more. These are things that our little child brain came up with. It doesn't mean they're true, and they're certainly not true now. But we've still got that little child inside of us saying, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, and I've got to construct these things. I've got to keep this structure that I've created to keep myself safe. I've got to keep that intact. And so what we need to do is make sure that we're actually supporting ourself. So that little kid, the little girl inside of me, the little boy, the little girl inside of you, that we need to be supporting that, because remember, these limiting beliefs are about keeping us safe. They were constructed to keep us safe. They're a way of creating a safe context for our life, making sense of what was going on around us. And we can't just kind of say, tough, they don't matter anymore. We don't care about that, because they don't. We have an emotional reaction to these things. So we've got to sort of look at it in a slightly different way. So that's the first thing. They're not true. So the first thing is we recognize they're not true. What's the next one? They feed our self-doubt is the next one. I do think as women, we don't celebrate our wins or ourselves and each other enough. We need to hold each other up more often. Hallelujah. Amen. Yes, we absolutely do. We absolutely do. So when we have limiting beliefs, they feed our self-doubt. And for most of us, we don't need to feed our self-doubt any very much, because we've got enough self-doubt anyway. Self-doubt is just there in bucket loads. So what we're wanting to do is actually shift through these patterns and replace them with things that actually build our confidence in ourselves, build our self-belief. So the patterns that we've got, they've kept us safe for this long, but they're not helping us feel good about ourselves. So they're feeding our self-doubt. So next one. The next one is self-sabotage. I kind of like this picture. Yeah, we sabotage ourselves. So I sabotaged myself for 35 years because I told myself I couldn't draw. And therefore, if I tried drawing, I would fail, and failure was not an option. Failure was not acceptable, because if you failed, you were not loved. And therefore, self-sabotage meant that I just said, "Oh, I'm not gonna try. I'm not gonna do it anymore. I'll put that away. I'll put that part of myself, that creativity, away," and didn't do it. Didn't do it anymore. And what I missed out from with that is a lot of fun. It might be that I missed out on actually being quite good. If I'd practiced in those 35 years, I might have ended up being quite good now. Yeah, it's a good illustration. It's from Canva. It's not one of mine, but it's a good illustration. I liked it. But yeah, this is exactly us. beliefs. We're there sort of cutting through the branch that we're sitting on, because we are listening to these beliefs. What about the next one? The next one, they prevent us from moving. Prevent us from moving forward. They stop us taking action. So often we will be paralyzed by our limiting beliefs. We will find ourselves saying, I can't. I did that. I didn't draw because I might have failed. I didn't take action on anything because it might not have been good enough. Self-sabotage, Kathleen. Yes, it's why I don't cook anymore, kind of like your drawing. Yeah, absolutely. And yes, Henrik, it is hard to be human. It is hard to be human, but it isn't as hard as we make it. It can be easy. It can be easy. We make it hard. So we get to actually start thinking in terms of, well, what can we do to make this easier? To be a bit, what we talked about yesterday, give ourselves some grace, because, you know, we make it hard. We make living hard, and it's not designed to be hard. Okay, what's the next one? Oh, we've gone back. We like that picture. You and others pay the price. So this is something that can sometimes help us to shift, help us to want to shift. So there is always a price to pay for living in this kind of limited way. It's a price that we pay. So we don't do the things we want to do. We beat ourselves up. We don't get where we want to get. But it's also a price other people pay. So write in the chat, who else is paying the price for your limiting beliefs? Who else is paying the price? Is it your family? Is it your dog? Who's paying the price for the things that you aren't willing to or aren't able at this point? It's not necessarily willing, it's often able. You feel paralyzed by these beliefs. But your dog, yeah, your dog. Yeah. Husband does the cooking. That's a price that's paid. Yeah. You're not prepared to do it. Somebody gets to do it. Your best friend. Yeah. My dog. Yeah. So yeah, we've got prices are being paid for this. And that's, again, not to put blame on, because how many of you, as soon as I said that, were thinking, oh my goodness, I'm just a hopeless, horrible human being? Go on. Hands up. Then our natural response is to take that on as more blame. Our natural response is to say, oh my God, I'm now responsible not only for me having missed out on things, but for other people having to pay prices. And that's not what this is about. This is just about us recognizing that when we are living in a state of fear about, you know, shifting through beliefs that are not serving us, but we're not willing to actually, or we're not able to shift through them, then there are consequences to that. And it's not a blame game. It's just a recognition that it's important to look at this stuff, because our dog's paying the price, we're paying the price, our family, our children, our husband, our wives, partners, friends, other dogs in the community that I want to reach out to and I'm hesitating, like that. Yeah, absolutely, Jean. How do people react when I say I'm a great dog parent? How do they react, Henrik? How do they react? Because you are a great, I'm sure you are a great dog parent. I'm sure everybody on this call is, actually, because you are here, you are caring, you're wanting to learn to be the best you can be for your dog. So that is all good. That is all good. So I always get more motivated when it's pointed out I'm affecting other people and animals, less motivated when it's self-sabotage. Sky, you are a supporter. I am sure you are a supporter, just like me. And yeah, it's that whole feeling of when it's starting to affect other people, then we'll take notice. When it's affecting us, we won't. So that's why I say, you know, you fit your oxygen mask first, because then you can help the person or the dog sitting next to you. Because if I just said, do this for yourself, you'd all say, nah, it doesn't matter. Don't need to do it for myself. But when I say do it for yourself, because if you don't do it for yourself, you can't do the best you can for them, you're all on it. And that is really that, and that's fine. I mean, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, thinking a mentor or friend who believes in you helps find the strength to change direction. Yeah, absolutely. Having other people who believe in you really does help. Having people who support you really helps. Having people to go along the journey. We're not designed to do all this on our own. So having people who'll help you through it really, really helps. So let's just have the next slide, because what I want to just talk about now is the good side of this, the hopeful side of this. So we've had all these patterns are going on and everything's happening, and it's all programmed into us from a very early age that this is what we've constructed in order to survive. But there's a thing in neuroscience called brain plasticity. And the good thing is that the underlying message is that you can change. You have choice, you can change, you can create, literally reprogram your brain. You can literally do that. Brain plasticity is that your brain is making new connections all the time, that your brain is changing. You are not the same person now that you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. You are not the same person. Your brain has changed completely its configuration because the brain is constantly changing. Now, this is relatively new understanding. So, it used to be thought that by the time you got to adulthood, your brain was pretty much set and, you couldn't change things. It's actually been disproved completely by neuroscientists. Your brain changes all the time. And so the good news about all of this is, even if we've got these patterns and we've had these patterns for decades, as I have, we can shift them, we can change, we can reprogram our brain to think differently. And that will lead to different outcomes, lead to different feelings, lead to different actions on our part. So brain plasticity is the science behind what we are actually going to be talking about. We are actually talking about changing our the way that our brain works. And let's put up the quote from Michael Merkovich, I think he is. We are biological AI systems. Yes, we are. Yeah, Michael Merzenich. Anyway, he's a neuroscientist who works with children with trauma. And he said, and I love this quote. I think this quote, just listen to this and actually think about what he's saying. Whatever the circumstances of a child's early life, whatever the history and current state of that child, every human has the inbuilt power to improve, to change for the better, to significantly restore, and often to recover. Now, remember, he was working with traumatized children. And his experience as a neuroscientist working in that field was that brain plasticity meant that there was nobody who had no hope. There was nobody who could not shift. There was nobody who could not change. That reprogramming was something that was available to everybody. Whatever the circumstances of a child's early life and whatever the history and current state of that child, every human has a built-in power to improve, to change for the better, to significantly restore, and often to recover. And I love that. And I love that because it's all of us and it's built in. So this is not something we have to go and get off the shelf from somewhere. This is something that our brain actually has. Everything you have is in you now. It's always been there. It's just that you get to actually reprogram the circuits. Who I was 5 years ago to now, thanks to therapy and hard work, is night and day. Absolutely. Me too. Just like me. Absolutely. So let's have the next one. And this is the way, thank you, Eleanor. This is the way I like to think about neural pathways. You imagine that you have a field with pathways in it. And as you walk through those pathways, as you walk along the pathways, they will become more defined, won't they? So here's somebody walking down the pathways, and as they walk, the path becomes defined. Now, if you wanted to have a different pathway, say you wanted to go diagonally across that field, what you'd have to do is just turn and start walking diagonally across the field. And when you first did it, it would be quite hard. It would be difficult. The grass is long. You'd have to sort of batter it down a little bit. And when you come through and come back down that field again, the temptation is to stick on the path that's already there because it's easier, because it's already been bashed down. So it's clearer, it's flatter, it's not such an effort. But if you want to keep on making another path, a different pathway, and remember, everything that we know, everything that we experience, everything that we think is just a neural pathway, just a connection between parts of our brain. That's all it is. It's electrical signals. So we get to make those connections. We have to keep doing the same thing, doing the thing that we want, practicing the path that we want to go down. And what happens is that after a little bit of time, it becomes easier to walk on that path that we've just been battering down, that we've been flattening, because the grass is flatter, because we've walked on it a few times. And the previous path, because we haven't been walking on that, because we haven't been practicing that, has started to grow over. It started to recover itself. It started to get so that it's all long grass again. And so that becomes harder to go down. And eventually we move to a point where our brain will naturally go down the new path because that's what we've practiced. But it is a practice, and we have to practice it. And that is the key thing. Yeah. So, and this is exactly the same for dogs. Yeah. So whatever they're learning, yeah, there are absolutely, they could say the same about dogs, that dogs also have those things that they are able to recover, because dogs also are creating neural pathways. So yeah, absolutely. So what we're wanting to do is practice the new paths that we want to take. Let's go to the next slide. Saying that I like. The mind takes its shape from whatever it rests upon. Traditional Buddhist saying, apparently. I love it. I love this. So the mind takes its shape from whatever it rests upon. So what this is saying is, what we focus on is what we're going to create a neural path for. So if we spend time focusing on the negative stuff, then that is what our brain is going to remember. That is what is going to be the easy path to follow. If we practice affirming ourselves, practice thinking about ourselves in different ways, practice, and we're going to look at ways we can do that in a minute. But if we practice these things, then our brain will start to follow that path naturally. And that's important. So let's go to the next one. We've got you can think of this, other way. Lovely. So we can think about this. Another way of thinking about it, and this can sometimes be a metaphor that helps people, is to think about it as that we've got in our brain two opposing kind of voices. We've got the inner critic voice, which is always telling us that we're not good enough, that we're not, nobody's going to like that. Nobody wants to hear what you've got to say. You're stupid, all those sorts of things. That's your inner critic voice. And we've got an inner coach voice. And the inner coach voice is saying, give yourself some grace. Be kind to yourself. You can do this. You are worthy. You matter. That's your inner coach voice. And you've got these two voices going on. And what we get to actually choose, and we have a choice, is which voice we listen to. So if we listen to the inner critic, then we're going to say, oh yeah, I am rubbish. I can't do it. And we're going to stop, and we're not going to do what we need to do. Whereas if we listen to our inner coach, then we were able to then say, yes, actually, yes, I may not have done a great job here, but it's not about me being a failure. It's about information. This worked, this didn't work. Do you remember when I said yesterday about results are just information? When we do something and it succeeds, that is information to tell us that the thing we did is worth repeating. Just like our dogs. When they do something that is what we want and we reinforce that, what have we done? We've just told them it's worth repeating that. And that's what we get to do with results. If it works, it's worth repeating. If it doesn't work, we do something else. End of. No judgment, no personal sort of, I'm rubbish, I'm hopeless, I'm useless, I'm a failure. Because it's not about who we are, it's about something we did. And that's a very different thing. And our inner coach will tell us that. And our inner critic will make it personal and will tell us that it's our fault and that we're rubbish and that we're useless and that we're always like that. And whose voice are you going to listen to? Whose voice are you going to listen to? So when we want to stop our inner critic, what we get to do is we get to acknowledge them. So remember, your inner critic is actually that little girl, that little boy, that kid who is struggling to cope with the life that they don't really understand and all the adults that they don't really understand. And that has now become the inner critic voice. The voice, and remember that voice is trying to protect you. So they're not criticizing, that inner critic is not criticizing you because of malice. The inner critic is criticizing you to protect you, trying to keep you safe in a faulty way, in a way that is misguided, absolutely, but still trying to keep you safe. The motive, the intention is good. So rather than saying, go away, you're rubbish, what we can do is just saying, yeah, I hear that's what you're telling me, but actually, I'm going to give myself grace. I'm going to make a choice to think differently about this. And we have that choice. Okay. All right, where are we next? So how do we make the choice? So brilliant way of looking at life. Pathways are easy to tread as opposed to treading a new path wherever it might lead, perhaps to a far greater end result. Yeah. And sometimes, don't you think that sometimes we think that we don't get something that we want and we think, oh, it's just terrible. Whereas actually, when it comes to it, where we end up being is so much better than we might have been, where we were planning to go in the first place. Yeah. So we just want to make sure that we are just allowing ourselves to think differently. So the first thing, so there are 5 ways that or 5 steps, if you like, to addressing these negative thinking patterns. The first one is to recognize and acknowledge that they are thoughts, not reality. So this is just thinking. It's just our thoughts. They're not reality. And we can therefore replace the thoughts with new thoughts. We can do that. Second thing, next slide. Second thing is to look for evidence. Now, evidence is great for this because most of our thinking patterns are kind of definitive and absolute. I never succeed at that. I'm rubbish. I always get it wrong. We tend to be quite extreme in our thinking patterns. And therefore, evidence can be a really good way of reminding ourselves that actually that's not true. So if you tell yourself, I always get that wrong. I can't do it. I just can't do that. I'll never be able to do that. If we think that, and then we find one incident where we could do it, we've provided evidence that thinking pattern is incorrect. Yeah. So if we can just look at the evidence, and this goes back to what people were saying earlier, and I know some of you were saying, we need to remember the good stuff. Remember the things. Somebody said that, I think it was Sarah said, I wrote down a description of what I'd achieved and it made me feel better. Yeah, absolutely. So write it down, draw it out, make sure you record your successes, because one of the reasons we don't think we are any good or we don't think we're making progress with our dog is because we don't dwell on the positive things that happen. We notice every time our dog reacts to something, but we don't always notice the 1,000,001 times our dog doesn't react to something. So I will notice in here the one time Martha barked, but I'm not noticing So she barked maybe for 30 seconds, didn't she, in the middle? I'm not noticing the so far hour and 10 minutes or something that she has been quiet, because the barking was something that was threatening to me, threatening my safety in this space. The quiet is not. So my brain isn't paying attention to that, but it pays attention when she barks. So that is the same when we go out for a walk with our dog and they bark, we're going to remember it. When we go out for a walk and they don't, we're going to get home and we're going to say, phew, survived it one more time. Yeah, but we're not going to notice all the positive things necessarily that our dog managed to achieve and that we managed to achieve on that walk. So that is a key thing, is to think about what the evidence is. What is the evidence? Third thing is to change our language and to change the language of those around us. So this can be difficult, because if we live with people who put us down, and many of us do or have done, then we have to make choices there as well. We have to make choices to stand up for ourselves, to look out for ourselves, to be able to say, I'm sorry, I will not hear that. I don't want to hear that because it isn't true. Or to take ourselves out of that situation. And I have done that in situations where I felt that it was dangerous for my well-being to be in a situation where somebody, and it wasn't blaming another person, because they were also dealing with their demons, if you like, their limiting patterns, but it wasn't helping me to hear it every day. So I just take myself out of it. I just say, no, I'm not doing it. And that can be hard. That can be particularly hard if they're close relationships. But sometimes you get to do that. Or sometimes you just say, and again, I've done this, that's okay, but there are boundaries. And this is one area I don't go to. I won't discuss this because it never ends well. And I cannot hear those words that are bringing me down, because I'm working on changing the words I'm using about myself. And we get to change how we talk about ourselves. So instead of saying I'm not good enough, however that plays out in the words you use, we talk about the things we're proud of. We talk about the things that we are proud of, that we have achieved. Now, what I would like you to do is write in the chat one thing that you really value about yourself, something that you are good at, something that you are strong in, something you're proud of. I want you to write it in the chat right now. I want you to put it out there. Okay, put it out there. What are you proud of? What are you good at? What are you the best at? What is it that people are going to flock to you for because you're good at it? What is that thing? Pet portraits, lovely. Yes. Listening. Empathy, love it. Self-discipline, beautiful. Yeah. Celebrate yourself. Good listener, lovely. Determination. Persistence and fighting for right for me and others, love that. Never give up. Determination, yeah. Honored to be named Pet Sitter of the Year by Pet Sitters International. Well done, congratulations, that's awesome. Sewing, fabulous. I can't sew. I'm very, very much in awe of people who can do things like that. Organization, I am not organized. These guys behind the scenes will tell you that. I am totally unorganized. So again, in awe of people who are organized. Worked on being an active friend, I love that. Love that. Sewing, yeah, lovely. Caring, trustworthy. All these things. You're caring, empathetic people person. Yeah. Training puppies and adolescents and making it enjoyable. Fabulous. Resourceful. Can't think of anything. Okay, Angela. So think of a time when you did something. Think of something that you did well. And it can be a tiny thing or it can be a big thing. It can be at any point in your life. It may be that to do with your dog. It may be to do with your family. It may be something that you were that you chose to do that was pushing yourself. And then think about who you were in that moment, who you got to be in that moment. Okay. Were you courageous? Were you connected? Were you open? Were you honest? Were you determined? And thinking about that is where you get to find the things that you're proud of, that you are valuing in yourself. Okay, I've got to put this one up. I'm jack of all trades, master of none, so that's no good. Katerina, yeah, you are not master of none. You are doing massive number of different things, and I bet you're doing them well. So, if you say you jack of all trades, it means you can do lots of different things. You're versatile. So think of it in that way. Organizing, Janet. Yeah, Catherine is good at organizing me. Okay, I'm struggling with this because I don't think I'm good at anything, but I'll give it a go and a try. And this is where we get to examine these thinking patterns. So when you're finding it difficult to think of anything at all that you're good at, then this suggests that there's a thinking pattern that you're not worthy, you're not enough, you're not good enough. And that is not a blame again. This is not to put blame on anybody. This is just where you are right now. Okay. So what I would ask you to do, if you're finding this a struggle, is I would ask you to write down at the end of every day one thing that went well, one thing where you made a good choice, one thing where somebody gave you, thanked you for something, or one thing where you helped your dog, or one time in that day where you looked after yourself. You could start there. I looked after myself. And looking after myself might be just saying no to somebody, or it might be that you actually gave yourself grace to have the sleep that you need, or it might be that you went and had a walk when you weren't really feeling up like it, but you knew you needed to get out of the house. So think about something, no matter how small, that you did or were or chose that you were pleased that you did, and start just writing those things down. Because it's a practice. All of this is a practice, and we get to start where we are. So we get to start in the place that we are. And even if it's difficult, and at the moment we're looking at it and it just looks like there's nothing, getting up in the morning could be something that went well, that you were pleased that you did, that you chose to get out of bed and do something in the day rather than stay in bed with the covers over your head. So it's not that you have to have achieved some massive thing. It's that you get to actually celebrate you for whatever you are, for all of the things that you making choices to do things that help you, that help your dog. Somebody said you are here. So where was it? You're here. Yeah. So you're here. You care deeply for your dog, and that's something to be proud of. Absolutely, 100%. So thank you for that, Sky. Yeah, a lot of you, even if you feel that you're not enough right now, the fact that you are here is something to be proud of. It's something to celebrate. You took a stand, not only for you, for your dog, but for you. For you. You took a stand by being here. So yes, this is where we find that we are enough. Yeah, we find this in the practice. We find that we are enough because we practice telling ourselves that. So we change the words that we use. We tell ourselves, we affirm ourselves. We keep on practicing that shift in words because we've told ourselves we're not good enough for long enough. So now we get to shift it. We say, I am good enough. I managed to do this. I did that. I am this. So it doesn't have to be about what you do. Remember we were talking about the to be list yesterday? It could just be, I was courageous today. I was honest today. The fact that you are in this group right now saying, I'm finding this really difficult because I can't think of anything, is vulnerable in the extreme. It is being honest and authentic and open and not hiding yourself. And that is an amazing thing to be able to do, because that is one of the hardest things there is, because we all put these shields up, don't we? All put shields up and pretend everything's okay, and it isn't always okay. And so being able to do that is something to celebrate. It's something to be proud of. Okay. And those affirmations, yes, Jan, as Jan says, these affirmations are like creating the path through the long grass. The more we do it, the easier it will be. So those of you who are finding it difficult are starting at the beginning of a path through long grass. And it feels like a battle. You're pushing through all the time. But gradually it will become easier and easier if you practice. Okay. The next thing we do is we reframe. So we reframe. So we can reframe our thinking. And reframing is basically noting when we have that negative thinking pattern and consciously choosing to look at it in a different way. So there are different ways to do this and different ways to think about it. But one that I really like is something that we call the 3 accounts game. And you've got an example of it in your workbook. The 3 accounts game is basically where you just, for anything where you're coming up with this negative thought, you think of 3 alternatives to it. 3 alternatives to it. So let's say you're out on a walk with your dog, and your dog and somebody looks over at you. Your dog barks and somebody looks over at you, and they kind of look over you, look a bit askance at you. Your immediate thought, what's your immediate thought? What's your immediate response to that? If you're being honest, what is our immediate response to that likely to be? I know what my immediate response to it is, but I just want to pop into the... What's your immediate response? Judging. Yeah, being judged. They're judging me. Yeah, absolutely. They're judging me. You're embarrassed, aren't you? You're being judged. Yeah. Smile at them thinking, yes, I know my dog is cute. Well done, Katerina. You are reframing immediately. Yes, something's wrong. Okay. Honestly, not bothered. My immediate response is my dog okay? And mine, your own. Yeah. Take care of your own life. Cool. They'll think you've got the gall. Oh God, I'm about to get a lecture. Yeah. Something wrong. They're thinking negatively about me. Okay, so many of us would have some sort of negative response. They'll think you've got the gall to call yourself a dog trainer, Jan says. Yeah, and those of us who are dog trainers always feel worse like that. But I do love I smile thinking, yes, I know my dog is cute. Absolutely. And that's a reframing. Okay. Now, it may be, Katrina, you never bothered about people judging you, in which case that's great. That's perfect. But if you did used to think that, and you've shifted it so that you're now thinking, hey, yeah, you can look at me how you like, because I know my dog's cute and I know that's what you're thinking. That is a reframing, and it's great. Perfect. So think about now, give me some reason. So we've got one there. You're looking at me because my dog is cute. I have the cutest dog on the block, and you're looking at me because of that. What else might be going on? What else is going on? Your dog barked, somebody turns around and stares at you. What might be going on? Give me some other possible reframings of that. It doesn't matter whether they're true or not, just throw them out there. Throw them out there. So we've got, they could be scared of dogs, so they could be worried about their own dog. Yeah, absolutely. They've been through this and have empathy. Yes. So they might just be, oh, my dog does that as well. Yeah. Thank God it's not me. That might be one. They have the same issue. Yeah. They must be having fun. They think your dog has something interesting and don't want to miss out. Seen something interesting. They forgot to feed their dog. Yeah. So they're thinking, oh God, there's somebody with a dog over there. Oh, bother, I've left my dog at home. Yeah. Yeah, they're thinking, thank God I'm not the only one with a barky dog. Yeah, that's what I think. I think, oh, thank goodness the neighbor can't complain about my dog barking because their dog's barking. That's what I think. Yeah, absolutely. They simply heard a loud sound, looked towards it without any further thought. Absolutely. Sometimes people just react to noise. They hear something, they think, what was that? And then they're going, oh, it's a dog barking, and then they carry on. Not bothered. What sort of poodle crosses? This is me. This is me. It's like, oh, there's a dog. What sort of dog is it? You know, oh, aren't they beautiful? It's that. That's me. So if I turn around, if you ever see me and your dog barks, I will just be looking around to see what kind of dog it is, because that is me. I'm just obsessed with knowing what sort of dog there is out there. So yeah, absolutely. What sort of poodle cross is that? I love that. I love that. And is that what people are thinking about Mia? Yeah, she's not a poodle cross. She's a party poodle. Okay. All right. Okay. Lovely. Thank you for that. Apologetic, embarrassed. Yeah. So we get all of that thing. So the thing about reframing and the 3 accounts is that it doesn't actually matter what the truth is. What matters is that as soon as you start thinking about other possible explanations for this, then it shifts you from that everybody's judging me to, well, we don't know. It doesn't matter. We just keep going. They can mind their own business, nothing to do with them. We're all fine. And it shifts your thinking straight away into a different frame. So instead of going down that inner critic, oh, I'm terrible, oh, I'm dreadful, oh, I'm hopeless, I'm rubbish, I'm no good for my dog. That's all our inner critic talking. We can then move into our inner coach, who will say, yeah, you're doing a good job. You're fine. You handled it. You did it well. And that's really cool. So our 5th thing that we do is we take action. We take action. So we have to practice. We have to keep on doing stuff that is going to actually shift. So we'll be practicing looking for evidence. We're practicing words, changing our words. Is there some issue around comments? Yeah, some comments are coming in from another group. Some comments. So we've got 2 Facebook groups joining us and YouTube. So we're reading out comments that are coming from different places. So if you're not seeing the comments, they're probably in the other group. So don't worry about it. That's why we put them up on the screen so that you get to see them. Okay. So yeah, we take action. We have to practice. We have to walk down that field to flatten the grass down, to make the connection in our brain. So we have to take action and do stuff. And of course, we take action in tiny steps. So we're wanting to do little things. We're not trying to do this all at once. It has taken us years, decades for some of us to get to where we are. And we have been practicing those negative patterns for all that time. We're not going to shift it overnight. We're not going to shift it overnight, but we can practice it and take these small steps. And that is exactly the same for our dogs, isn't it? That's okay, Sky. Okay, glad you've enjoyed it. Do catch the recording because we've got a gift for you. So just catch the recording of the end as soon as you can. Cool. So yes, we get to take action, we get to practice, and we get to take small steps. And for our dogs, this is the same. So our dogs have been practicing their reactive behavior for probably months, possibly years, possibly a lot of years. And so the idea that we can shift it and change that behavior immediately overnight is unrealistic. But that doesn't mean that we can't change their behavior, because their behavior is driven by their thoughts and their emotions. And as we've seen, brain is plastic. Brain will change. And dog's brain is just as plastic as a human brain. So a dog's brain, we can create new neural pathways as well. So as we take action, we get to do stuff that is actually practicing making those new neural connections that we want, whether that's in our thinking or whether that's in, for our dogs, their emotional response to things. We get them to practice the things that we want them to feel, to do, and we set them up for success in that. Now, I want to say a little bit about changing mindset, because I've got a couple of things that are really good for this. A couple of things. Games are particularly good for this. Games are good because games focus us on problem solving. they have a naturally built-in thing that focuses our brain on solving problems as opposed to seeing problems. And so there are various things that we can do that will actually shift our mindset immediately as we take action, and they will shift our mindset and keep reminding us that we see things positively, that we notice the good things. And there's a couple of games that I really love, and some of you who know that, to me, it's some of you who know will know my stuff will know these already, but I thought I'd throw them in, and they're in your workbook as well. The first one is Reactivity Bingo. We all love Reactivity Bingo, and Reactivity Bingo is where you basically will have a bingo card for your walks, and you will basically go out and you can either have, there are two kinds, there's best case reactivity bingo and worst case reactivity bingo. So best case reactivity bingo is you write down all the things that you that are good things that could happen on your walk. So I'm just going to find the one that I've got in your thing. So I've given you a little version of this in your workbook. Somebody else gave you space. So that's a good thing, isn't it? Because usually it's the other way around. People are being a pain in the neck and not giving us space. So somebody gave you space. Good thing. Cross it off when it happens. Bingo. Okay. You made a good choice, or your dog made a good choice. Cross it off when it happens. Your dog walked parallel to another dog without reacting. Cross it off when it happens. And when you get a line or a full house, you give yourself the handler award that we were talking about yesterday. You give yourself a prize. You give yourself an award, because that is what is that is how we impress this into our brain. We make it important by celebrating it. So we want to first notice when these things happen, because these are the things, the best case things, are the things we often don't notice, that we have to train ourselves to notice, don't we? So using Reactivity Bingo can make us notice those things. If you think that when you go out and things are not good enough yet for that to happen, and so you just can't even imagine your dog watching another dog calmly or something like that, then you can play worst case reactivity bingo, because just the process of going through the bingo and actually playing the game means that you have a win even when things go badly. So when the loose dog runs over, that's on your worst case reactivity bingo. So yes, it's a bad thing that happened, but it's something that you can still tick off your bingo card, and you can still reward yourself for that. So it actually still works as a positive thing, even though you're noticing things that have gone wrong, because you kind of, it's the prediction that these things might go wrong, and then they do, you actually have a win in that. So yes, bingo in either direction is a really good game to play. And then the second game that I'd recommend you play is the cup final game. Okay, so your Pyrenean rescue is now 4. We've worked with her and ourselves since her adoption, since was 10 months. Wow, your book has been incredibly transformative for us. She is now, I don't know, now 4. Thank you. That's lovely. I'm not sure who that is, but thank you. And I'm glad the book is helpful. The cup final game. Who plays the cup final game? How many of you are playing the cup final game out there? Anyone? Anybody know what the cup final game is? Yes. Catherine is. I am. Yeah. She's now less reactive and able to be around other dogs. That's perfect. Okay. Love the cup final game, Jean. Yeah. Yes, we've got people playing the cup final game. Excellent. So the cup final game, named by Roz, who has Sophie, who's one of our coaches now. This is a game that I had, which was all kind of, when I started it, it was kind of percentages. I'm going to tell you in a minute, Sarah, what it is. It was all kind of working out percentages. And then Roz came up with this lovely idea of making it a football match, or making it any kind of match. It was some sort of, you're going to make it a game that you play. And the cup final game, you basically divide the world into Team Rover, whatever. So for me, Team Martha, which is you and everybody who's to do with your dog, and your dog, obviously, and then the rest of the world. So you've got 2 teams. And you score a goal every time you go out and you see something that would normally be a trigger for your dog, and your dog does not react to it. That's how you score a goal. So say your dog reacts to other dogs normally, and you go out and you meet 2 dogs that your dog doesn't react to, you score 2 goals. Every time you go out and your dog does react to something that they would normally react to, then the rest of the world scores a goal. So you end up scoring your walk. And so if you go out and you see 5 dogs and your dog reacts to 2 of them, then you win 3-2. Yeah, because you've had 3 non-reactions and 2 reactions. And what you can do is then sort of say, well, okay, so I'm going out and today I got 10-0 and that was brilliant. You know, I actually went out for a walk and there were no reactions. What it does, and there's a yeah, and you could have nil scores. Yeah, you could absolutely. You start off, but when you first start, you could lose 10-0. And that's fine, because you're still able to then say the next time when you get a score of 1-9, you're really excited. So this is doing 2 things. One is it's making you notice the good stuff. So you're noticing the good stuff. So we tend to notice the bad stuff, don't we? We tend to notice our dog goes out and reacts to 2 dogs. But we may not notice, or we may not remember the 5 dogs who actually went past and didn't, there was no reaction. Whereas this makes you notice that. So this actually gets you to move away from this focus, the negativity bias. It's counteracting the negativity bias by making sure you remember, you notice the good stuff. So that's the first thing it does. The second thing that it does is that it really helps you to see this as a game where you get to problem solve. So instead of going out thinking, oh my goodness, I've just got to survive this. I've got to kind of, you get through and everything, you're looking at everything as a potential threat. And then you get home, you close the door and you think, thank God it's over for another day, because it's all just been so difficult. Instead of thinking like that, you're going out and you're thinking, right, my aim today is to beat my score from yesterday. So you're going out and you are looking for opportunities, but you're also looking for solutions. So instead of going out thinking, oh, it's all terrible, what's going to happen, you're thinking, what can I do to help my dog not react? Because that is your focus. So suddenly you're moving into this space where you're actually focusing on helping your dog not to react. And yeah, play with the noises that Jack reacts to or not. Yeah, absolutely. So Jack is a blind dog and he's reactive to some noises, and so you can adapt this to whatever your dog's circumstance is. And the great thing about this, I realized that I was onto something with this. I started playing this with my dog Miri many years ago, and it was the day that I went out for a walk and I was disappointed that we hadn't seen anybody because I couldn't play the game and I couldn't improve my score. That was when I realized that this was actually working, because my mindset had shifted so much that I actually was looking forward to seeing other dogs, because it gave me and her the opportunity to do well, to succeed at this. And that made a huge difference. So it's a big mindset shifter and it's well worth playing. And you've got a little tracker for it in your workbook, so you can play it and have some fun with that. Okay, we're almost done for today. What I wanted to do, we've got 2 things I want to sort of talk to you about and a gift for you at the end. So just bear with us. I'm going to just talk about something quickly. We become a coach. We become a coach. We become a coach. You can become a coach. You become a coach of yourself. You become your inner coach. Yeah, you absolutely do that. So let's just pop the screen up again. So for some of you, you'll be thinking, yeah, this is great. We've been through some stuff. We've looked at what we can do. We've started to look at how we can shift our mindset, and you can move on now with your dog and you can look at where your next step is. And some of you might be thinking, well, I would really like to know how to apply this with my dog. I would like to actually get some support because I'm still not sure what I do with my dog. So we might be feeling that. And that is, that's a perfectly natural place to be, because it's difficult. This is not, as I said earlier, this is not a journey that we have to do on our own. This is something where support makes a massive difference. So for anybody who's feeling like that, I just wanted to let you know this is an opportunity that's available, and I'm just telling you about it as an opportunity. We have a course that we run called Chaos to Connection, which we're starting a new version of it. We haven't run it for about a year because of everything that's gone on with me this last year. But we're running it again starting next week. And it's called Chaos to Connection. It's a course for people who live with dogs who can be reactive, and it's designed to take you through a process to help you to shift that and to give you the tools that you need to move forward. Do you want to just move the next slide, Catherine? So it's an 8-module course. We've got 8 modules run over 10 weeks. And because we know that it's something that, you want to get sorted, you want to get started with quickly. So we don't want to drag it out for a long time. So it's 8 weeks, 8 modules over 10 weeks. We give you points in the course to practice, to reflect, to work with a coach individually. And we've got modules that look at our own stress, that look at our dog's stress, that look at the factors that we need to reset to help our dogs move forward, that look at how we build the skills gradually, building on good foundations, developing new skills. So there is training in there as well. But there's a lot more than training. Next slide. We get there. There we go. We look at this, a particular focus of this is when we're out with our dogs. So our dogs who can be reactive on walks. So we're looking at how we can walk more balanced with our dogs. We're looking at how we can be safer on our walks. We can deal with all those emergencies that happen. We can deal with all those people who let their dogs run over to us, and what do we do in that situation? How do we make that work? And then we can look at how we can actually learn to communicate with our dog, to have conversations with our dog where they are able to communicate with us as well as we communicate with them, where we're able to hear them and understand them and be able to then make choices that are good for them. And then to move forward, building that strong relationship with our dogs. So it's very much a program that is focused on building strong relationships, that's focused on dealing with what is going on for us as well as what's going on for our dogs. So all the sorts of things we've been talking about in the last few days, but then applying it as well into how do we support our dog in this space. And we have live classes, we have video tutorials, so you can look at it anytime to practice and go back to things and see. So little bite-sized tutorials as well as longer videos explaining what things are about. We have workbooks, handouts, trackers, diaries. We have a community to support, so you're never on your own to do this. And we have one-to-one coaching, so we don't leave you to do this on your own. Each person on the course will get a one-to-one coach, and you will meet with them 3 times during the course so that you get the chance to actually make sure that you're able to apply this to your situation. So we're doing this, we're running this course. I think we can probably just jump through now to the just spin through these because we talked about them. Yes, so these are the things that we've got. So this is what is there in the course. And there is a brochure, and I think that somebody has just popped that in. I think that might be Sam, one of our coaches, has just popped that in the Facebook chat. So there's a brochure on Canva that will give you more information about the course. If you want to find out more about it, you can go and look at that little brochure. The investment for this course is £695, inclusive of taxes and VAT and everything in there. So it includes your live calls, it includes your resources, it includes your coaching, your individual coaching. And as we're starting it next week, we're giving you a couple of bonuses. We've got a few bonuses. You want to put the bonuses slide up? So we've got 4 main bonuses. So these are available until we start next Thursday. So that's the 17th. So these bonuses are available until next Wednesday. If you sign up before next Wednesday, you get those. So we've got an emergency toolkit because we know that, even though the course is as short as we can make it, which is 10 weeks, 8 modules over 10 weeks, we know that right now you want to actually make progress now. You want to get through this now. So we've got Emergency Toolkit. We've got something which will help you with really small bite-sized videos just to get going, to know what to do now, to stop your dog practicing what they're doing, to help your dog rebalance, to start to build the strong foundations that you need to move forward. So we're going to give you the Emergency Toolkit. I'm also going to give you an acing reactivity masterclass. I'm going to do a live masterclass for you where I'm talking about the use of animal-centered education. I mentioned this yesterday, animal-centered education, which is a really beautiful way of working with our dogs to help them to be the best that they can be, to be as balanced as they can be. It gives them opportunities just to investigate their environment in a very natural way. And it gives us the opportunity to observe them and see what is going on with them. And that can be really helpful if we want to talk to our vet or to other professionals, because we need to be able to tell them what we're seeing. So I'm going to do a special masterclass for you on how ACE can support reactivity. We're also going to do a video assessment of your dog. So as I said, it can be difficult sometimes to communicate if you feel that your dog is perhaps in pain or has some underlying condition. And it's going to be difficult to communicate that to vets. It can be difficult to get them to take it seriously, because often the vet is seeing your dog in a very specific situation for 10 minutes in a consulting room. They're not getting to see your dog's movement properly. They're not getting to see your dog when they're not having an adrenaline rush, which will mask any pain that they're showing. So you may still see these things going on with your dog, but your vet doesn't get the opportunity to see them. So what we'll do is we'll get you to film your dog and we'll tell you how to do it. And then we'll give you an assessment of what we're seeing in that video. And that will be done by ACE professionals, so people who are qualified. I'm an ACE instructor. We've got several ACE trainers on the team, and we will be looking at those videos and giving you an assessment to tell you what we are seeing and what to point out to your vet. And then the fourth bonus that we're giving, and we're giving all of this to anybody who signs up for the course, who joins us on the course before the 16th of February, 2 months free membership of the Canine Confidence Hub. And that is our membership, which is a monthly membership. It costs £65 monthly, and you're going to get 2 months completely free so that you can try it out. You can go through one of our challenges. We do a challenge every 2 months. You can get to know some of the people in there. You can see what sort of support we give you ongoing, and you can decide if that's something that you would want to do at the end of the course. So you get that at the end of the course. You'll get the chance to go on and do 2 months free. So that is the bonus package that we've got for you right now if you want to jump into this. But we've got one more bonus for anybody who knows that this is what they want, who knows this is what they will really help them. And what I am offering for anybody who is absolutely there, willing to take action, ready to go, is that for the next 24 hours only, so this is between now and 8 p.m. tomorrow, you'll get a free one-to-one call with me. So you'll get 60 minutes with me, one-to-one, where we get to discuss whatever you like relating to you and your dog. And I just put that there because, I mean, we can talk about cooking if you like or whatever, but, it gets to be a one-to-one, helping you, supporting you with wherever you are with your dog. Now, the value of this is £499. But to be honest, the value of this is you can't get this anywhere else. If you want to have a one-to-one with me to work through whatever it is that is coming up for you, whether that's stuff that we've talked about over the masterclass, whether it's how you would work with your dog, there is no other way at the moment where you'll get that one-to-one call with me, because I'm not doing one-to-one calls. So I'm doing this as a bonus for you to join. If you're joining if it's something that you want to do, then I'm giving you this now, but it's not something that you can actually buy at the moment. So this is there for anybody who just knows that that's what you want. And let's just move on to the gift. We've actually got a free gift for anyone who's on the call who just wants to take this a little bit further, you've got your dog, you're in a position where you are just really not sure what the next step is. We're offering a free Canine Confidence Discovery Call. So this is a free 30-minute call with one of our coaches. We've got a team of 7 coaches, and you get to have 30 minutes of their time where you can get clear on your next steps with your dog, clear on what your next steps are for you, and you can leave with an action plan. Now, there's limited availability for these because we've got a limited amount of time that they're available. So what I would ask is that if you're a current student, so if you're currently in the hub, that you don't book on these, okay? Because what we'd like to do is keep these for people who haven't already got the opportunity to have contact with the coaches. If you're in the hub and you would like a call like this, then we will give you an opportunity to have a call at some point during the hub. And you also get opportunities, obviously, for me to do the hot seating and things like that. So this is not to say that you can't do it, but I just ask that because there's a limited number of them, that for this lot, for this particular bunch of them, we've put on some calls over the next week or so, that you hang fire. And if you would like to have calls with our coaches, then let me know and we'll arrange something specific for you guys. So jump on and grab a confidence call, discovery call. You get a chance to talk to one of our coaches for half an hour. It is an incredible opportunity. They are all amazing, amazing people. They are all extremely qualified, very well qualified team members. They have qualifications in all sorts of areas. So we've got people who are T-Touch practitioners, we've got people who are ACE practitioners, we've got people who are behavioral practitioners, we've got people who are scent work instructors, we've got people who are able to teach you in a whole lot of different areas. And okay, so that link goes to 60-minute calls, not 30. Is that right, Catherine? Have they got the right list? Link. Catherine's typing. The coaches are absolutely brilliant. They are amazing. Haven't had time to adjust it. Okay. But just, it's fine. You can still book them, yeah? Yeah, you can still book them. It will work. It will all work. We will sort it out for you. So just choose a time. It will work. But it will just be half an hour. It won't be 60 minutes. So a half-hour call with one of our coaches. So jump on, get your call booked in. If you are a current student in the hub, then let me know if you'd like one and we can see what we can do. Yeah, so it went to 60-minute calls. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Just choose the time that works for you and you'll get a half-hour call with it. That's fine. Yeah. So it's just set up. But don't worry about it saying 60 minutes. It won't be 60-minute calls. There'll be 30-minute calls. Okay. So jump on that if that will be helpful to you. There's limited availability, so don't delay on that because we've probably got enough spaces for the people who are going to be jumping on tonight. We may not have spaces left. If you're watching the replay and you're thinking, oh, have I missed the boat? Try it. Check the link, make sure and see if there's any spaces left. These will be available until they're not available anymore. So they'll be available until they've gone. So jump on as soon as you can if you would like one of those calls. May you share the Reactivity Bingo with clients? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you can take that and use that. No problem. And if you want a more detailed one, you can go to my website, canineconfidenceacademy.com. And at the top, there is a place where you can sign up to get a whole pack of bingo cards, which are a lot more detailed. So you can do that. Email us at support@canineconfidenceacademy.com if you have any problems. If you're trying to book a call and it's not working, just drop us an email. We'll get you sorted out. Okay. So we would like to talk to as many of you who have been here on these calls as possible, so that we can help you to make progress. The next step, find out what the next step is for you and your dog. All right. Thank you all so much for your attention, for giving me 6 hours of your life, which is very, very kind of you. And I do recognize how busy everybody is and everything. It is amazing to me that you are here, and you're still showing up, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you for that. Thank you so much, guys, for helping. Let me bring these guys on because they are amazing. There they are. Thank you to Catherine and to Sonia. These are, Catherine is our behind the scenes. What do you call yourself, Catherine? You basically make everything work.
Yes,
Catherine is the maker of everything working. Sonia is our client support. What do you call yourself? Oh, you're muted. There we go.
I'm like a cheerleader.
Yeah, cheerleader, chief cheerleader and coach. So Sonia looks after everybody beautifully. And yeah, we've also got in the Facebook, we've got Penny, we've got Sam, I think, we've got Wendella probably, we've got Eleanor, we've got Roz, people who are all on our coaching team who will support. So they will be, you will get one of these people, these lovely people to talk to, and do jump on, grab that opportunity. And thank you all so much for being here and for sharing time with me. I've really enjoyed it. For those of you who are looking for recording, they will be at the top in the featured section of the groups, and they'll be on YouTube. And if you've registered, you will get a link with an email in the next couple of days with all of the links and all of the workbooks. So look out for that. All right. Okay. Lovely to see you all. And call is available even if you don't enter a course. Absolutely. The call is available for you. The call is available for you. Because what we want is to make sure that you are moving forward, that you know what your next step gets to be. Okay. So yes, jump in no matter what. Thank you. And it wasn't what you were expecting, see, but it was really productive. I love that. Sometimes what we're not expecting is what we really need. So it's really good. All right, everybody, have a lovely rest of evening, rest of day. And thank you all for your support and your attention. And hopefully you will all get yourselves booked onto calls. And we look forward to talking to you then. All right, take care. You can post the link for the call. Yes, it's in the thing. If we can post it again, that's lovely. All right, take care, everybody. Bye.